we used to get, Mother used to make, we used to buy, she used to buy half a pig's head. And this was a delicacy sort of thing, because you cut the cheek off and roast the cheek and the tongue and the other bits. The rest of the stuff was boiled and all kind of mashed up. And we had a thing that Dad had made so you could compress it down, and used to, with the gelatin in it and all the bits and pieces of the head, it used to come out. They used to call it brawn. Here you can buy it, and they call it head cheese.
Yeah.
You know the stuff? You know, that's it. Mother used to make that all the time, you know. And she also used to get sheep's heads, you know, and have the brains out of the sheep's head. We used to fry the brains and have them on toast, you know. The tongue was that, or was another thing. And she used to have it. I use the sheep's head and make stew, you know, with onions and potatoes and carrots and all this good stuff. And the base thing was a sheep's head, you know. It's this is the way things were. And she always used to buy what was they call the breast of lamb. In other words, when you take a lamb chops, right, they come down about so far, but the bit down the middle, with virtually no meat on it, was the breast of lamb. And we used to buy them. Which was the cheapest cut. I mean, there was no meat on it, and she used to use these and make stew out of them. And sometimes, if she got one that was a little bit meaty, you know, it'd be roasted, and more or less like spare ribs are today. You know, it's a similar type of thing. The only difference is that the spare ribs, pig spare ribs you get a bit more meat on them, but there wasn't much on the lamb at all. You know.
Right. Yeah. Now, what about eels and, you know, that kind of stuff?
Oh yeah, I mean, the thing is, back then, in the village, or wherever, there were actual fish shops. And we got a butcher shop, a fish shop, bakery, and dairy, and all that sort of thing. And in the fish shops, you would get eels, yeah, sure, in Ray, and the big thing was, back then, was herrings. Herrings were extremely cheap. I mean, because they got them by the thousands of tons. You know, they've all gone. There's places fished out, you know. But I mean, now they're almost a delicacy. But the thing is, herrings back then was the cheapest thing. They were about a penny a piece or something like that. Very good. You know, Mother used to cook them. Just cut the heads off, and if you're lucky, there was a hard roe or soft roe in it, and that was good. And you know, you used to fry them, all right, and also you used to have, she used to do them in another sort of way, somehow or other, in a baking dish, and put it in the oven with vinegar, right, and and mackerel were done exactly the same in vinegar, you know, in the oven. The mackerel you could either have hot, or sometimes you would have that cold, you know, eat the fish cold. Mackerel was a good fish, just a small, about a foot, 18 inches long or less, you know. Same thing as the Spanish mackerel you get here, except these are tiny things, or relatively tiny, you know. Oh yeah, it was, feeding was so different. You know, and we used to have potatoes virtually at every meal, boiled potatoes mainly. Weekends when they did had a roast of some sort or other, they used to roast the potatoes. Parsnips were roasted. Always had carrots and cabbage and plenty of vegetables in the meals, you know, plenty. Whereas, yeah, because the rarer commodity, of course, was the meat. That's it. English sausages were, there was a lot of filler in there, grains and bread and all that sort of stuff, and they were a little low on meat, you know. We used to have chitlins too, you know. Loved to have, my dad used to love to have chitlins, you know. And they used to have, used to eat them with a little bit of Coleman's mustard, which was a hot mustard and vinegar. Yeah, they were good. And as a kid, you know, looking at Joseph and his eating, when I was that age, I was lapping any of this stuff up that became available. We used to have rabbits, of course. We used to have rabbit stew. All right, cut all the bits up and throw them into a pot. And Mother used to make a stew with all the bits in there. And also we used to, on occasion, we used to have roast rabbit. And in other words, you got the whole rabbit is one piece, and then you make a stuffing and filled the cavity of the rabbit and just tied it up and had stuffed rabbit. You know, it was another thing. We used to get calves' hearts and cut them. I mean, you used to open them up and stuff the cavities with all sorts of bits and pieces and tie them up again and roast them. A couple of calves' hearts. Well, I mean, we basically lived on the offal. You know, we didn't have the money to be buying, you know, steak. I mean, steak didn't exist. I mean, in our house, it just wasn't there. It was awful, mainly awful. It's awful. Yeah, I had things. In the rabbits, of course, you could always buy them. They were always hanging up in a butcher shop. You know, they were just hanging out there, and they used to have a stick across to keep it open, so the air would go into the cavity, the stomach cavity, or the carcass cavity. And then you take a rabbit down. They show it to you. Do you want it skinned? No, thank you. We take it home and skin it ourselves, and that sort of thing. We used to, when I was about 10, 11, 12, something like that, we kept a dozen rabbits to eat and breed them, and we worked at a deal with the local greengrocer, which was the fellow who sold the cabbages and all the fruit and this sort of stuff, and the outside leaves of the cabbages, he used to tear them off when he took display them, right? And he had to get rid of them, so he used to put them in a sack and he used to dump it off, and we used to feed it to the rabbits. And our rabbits, which we kept it, I mean, they were in a dozen cages, rabbit hutches, that's right, yeah. And the thing is, I used to feed them every day and clean them out and all this sort of stuff. When it came time to kill them, kill them, and that's all there is to it, you know. You grabbed older rabbit, held it by the rear legs, and when they hold a rabbit up in the air by his rear legs, he arches his back, he sticks his head out, and then you just hit the back of the head in the neck, right, which dislocates his spinal cord, right. And then you grab hold of him and pull it until you feel the neck break, and that's it. You know, that's the way you kill them. You know.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
Never knew that, Dad.
All right. And we had chickens as well. I mean, the thing is, we used to kill the chickens. I mean, you grab a chicken, you hold him up, and when you held him up, right? I mean, he's squawking and all this sort of thing, and you stuck your knife up in the roof of his mouth, right, which went right up through into his brain, right? And you held him up, and the blood used to run out while you're holding him up. So the blood came out of the chicken. This was the best way to get the blood out of the chicken when he was dead. Right. You know? And that was it. You know, that was the way it was done. Then you plucked them and all this sort of stuff. And then you went over them with a lighted thing, because hairs on the chicken as well, you know, so that's it. Then you open them up, took all the bits out, and that was it. Same with the rabbits, you know, exactly the same, you know. And we used to, you know, keep the rabbit's heart, lungs, and all the other good bits inside, you know, the stomach and all that sort of stuff was normally, you know, particularly when I was on the farm, throw it to the dogs, you know, that was it. Funny, yeah. A different world, Jamie. A whole different world.